I always check my son's pockets before doing laundry. It's a habit I can't shake from when Ethan was a teenager, constantly leaving gum wrappers and crumpled dollar bills to dissolve in the wash. Today, while sorting through his jacket after Sunday dinner at our house, my fingers brushed against something papery. The note was folded small and tight like a secret. As I smoothed it open, my hands trembled slightly. "Meet me at the usual place. We need to talk." Below that, a heart and the initial C. My throat went dry. I stood there in my laundry room, the washing machine humming beside me, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Ethan had seemed distracted during dinner, barely touching his food while Lila chatted about Finn's upcoming school play. "Grammy, watch this." Finn's voice startled me. I quickly tucked the note into my pocket as my grandson bounded into the room, demonstrating his new superhero move. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," I managed, forcing a smile. "Where's your daddy?" "On the phone outside. Mommy says he's always on the phone now." I followed Finn back to the kitchen, where Lila was loading the dishwasher. Through the window, I could see Ethan pacing on the back deck, his phone pressed to his ear, free hand gesturing in sharp movements. "Everything okay, Ellie?" Lila asked, catching my expression. "Just tired," I lied, watching my son through the glass. His face was shadowed, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept glancing over his shoulder to check if anyone was watching. When he finally came inside, his smile seemed plastered on. "We should get going," he announced, not meeting my eyes. "It's past Finn's bedtime." I hugged them goodbye, the note burning in my pocket like a hot coal. As their car disappeared down the street, I pulled it out again, studying the handwriting. Feminine, but not necessarily a woman's. The paper was expensive, the kind used for business correspondence. My son was hiding something, and that single initial, C, was the first thread in unraveling what could destroy our family. 3 days after finding the note, I dropped by Ethan and Lila's house unannounced, carrying a lasagna I knew would go uneaten. The silence hit me as soon as I walked in, that heavy kind that speaks louder than words. Lila was folding laundry in the living room, her movements sharp and mechanical. "Ethan's working late again," she said before I could ask. "Third time this week." "Where's Finn?" "Upstairs. He's been drawing a lot lately." She held up one of Ethan's dress shirts, studying a coffee stain with too much intensity. "All these pictures of broken things. His teacher called yesterday, actually. Said he's been quiet in class." I set the lasagna down and moved to help her fold. Through the window, I caught sight of Ethan's car pulling into the driveway. He sat there for a long moment, phone in hand, typing. "Does he still take those calls outside?" I asked carefully. Lila's hands stilled on a half-folded towel. "Sometimes in the garage now. Says the reception's better there." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "At least he's not slamming doors anymore." Ethan walked in, his tie loosened, looking surprised to see me. "Mom, everything okay?" "Just bringing dinner," I said, watching him check his phone again. "Busy at work. New project." He kissed Lila's cheek, but she turned away slightly, continuing to fold. "I need to shower." As he headed upstairs, Finn appeared in the doorway, clutching a drawing. "Daddy, look what I made." "Later, buddy. Daddy's tired." I moved to Finn, taking the picture from his trembling hands. It showed 4 stick figures, 3 standing together, 1 separate and surrounded by what looked like rain or tears. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," I said, but he was already trudging back upstairs. Lila pressed her fingers to her eyes. "I should start dinner." "I brought lasagna," I reminded her softly. "Right." She stared at the dish like she'd never seen food before. From upstairs came the sound of Ethan's phone ringing, followed by his muffled voice and the closing of the bathroom door. The note in my pocket felt heavier than ever. I had to make a choice, and soon. I followed Ethan's silver Audi to the Bluebird Cafe on the edge of town, my hands tight on the steering wheel. He'd told Lila he had a site inspection, but I knew better. The note I'd found last week mentioned the usual place, and I'd seen this cafe's logo on receipts in his jacket. Through the cafe window, I watched my son slide into a corner booth. Minutes later, a tall man with dark hair joined him. They didn't shake hands. Instead, the stranger, who I'd later learn was Cal Bennett, reached across the table and touched Ethan's wrist. My son didn't pull away. My phone buzzed. Lila's text read. "Finn's teacher called again. He got into a fight at recess. Can you pick him up?" I typed back, "On my way," but couldn't move. Cal was now showing Ethan something on his phone, their heads close together. Ethan's face softened in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not with Lila, not with Finn, not with anyone. A waitress approached their table. Cal ordered for both of them without consulting Ethan, who smiled like this was normal, expected, even wanted. My phone buzzed again. "Where are you?" "School's waiting." I started the car, but then Ethan stood abruptly, knocking his coffee cup. Cal grabbed his arm, and they stared at each other with such intensity that I felt like an intruder. When they finally left the cafe, they walked to Cal's car instead of Ethan's. They didn't kiss, but the way they looked at each other said everything. At school, Finn sat in the principal's office, his Superman backpack clutched to his chest. "He punched Tommy Miller," the principal explained. "Tommy said something about his dad having a special friend." My stomach lurched. "What kind of special friend?" "Someone at his dad's work." The principal lowered her voice. "Children often repeat things they overhear at home." I helped Finn into my car, his small face streaked with dried tears. "Grammy," he whispered, "is Daddy going away like Tommy's dad did?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I thought of Cal's possessive touch, of Ethan's guilty smiles, of Lila folding laundry alone. "No, sweetheart." I lied, knowing I had to confront my son before someone else's gossip destroyed everything. Lila's hands shook as she set down her coffee cup. We sat in my kitchen, early morning light casting shadows across her face. I'd just finished telling her everything, the note, the cafe, Cal Bennett. "I suspected someone," she whispered. "But I thought." She stopped, pressing her lips together. "I thought it was his new project manager." "Sarah." "Lila, I'm so sorry." She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "You know what's funny? Last month, he took me to dinner. Expensive place downtown. Kept apologizing for working so much, promised things would change." She laughed, a brittle sound. Cal was probably sitting at the next table. My phone buzzed, Ethan calling. I declined it. "Finn's teacher called again this morning," Lila said. "He's been drawing more pictures. A man in our house, standing between me and Ethan." She turned to face me, her expression hardening. "The other kids know, Ellie. Their parents must be talking." Another buzz, a text from Ethan. "Mom, please. I need to explain." "What are you going to do?" I asked. Before she could answer, we heard a car door slam outside. Through the window, I saw Cal Bennett getting out of his BMW, straightening his jacket. "That's him," I said. "That's Cal." Lila moved closer to the window, studying him. "He comes to our construction sites sometimes. Ethan said he was from corporate." Her voice cracked. "He's been in our home, Ellie. At Finn's birthday party." Cal reached our front door, then hesitated, checking his phone. In that moment, I saw what my son might have seen, the confident stance, the expensive clothes, the air of someone used to getting what they wanted. "I can't let him hurt my family anymore," Lila said quietly, reaching for her car keys. "I need to get Finn from school. Then I'm calling a lawyer." "Wait," I caught her arm. "There's something else you should see." I pulled out my phone, showing her the threatening messages I'd discovered on Ethan's tablet. Cal's possessiveness, his demands, his promises to tell everyone if Ethan ended things. Lila's face went white. "Oh God," she whispered. "What has Ethan gotten himself into?" The doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Cal Bennett even more imposing up close, his smile practiced and hollow. "Mrs. Harper? I believe we need to talk about Ethan." Behind me, Lila slipped into the kitchen, out of sight but within earshot. "Smart girl. Come in," I said, leading him to the living room where family photos lined the walls. His eyes lingered on one of Ethan with Finn at the beach. "Charming family," he said, his tone suggesting anything but. "Did Ethan tell you about our conversation yesterday? About his plans to leave the company?" My hands clenched. "He hasn't mentioned it." "No." Cal's smile tightened. "That's disappointing. We had such a productive discussion about his future. About consequences." From the kitchen came the soft sound of Lila's sharp intake of breath. "Are you threatening my son?" I kept my voice steady, remembering those messages on Ethan's tablet. "Threatening?" Cal laughed, but his eyes were cold. "I'm protecting him. From scandal, from career suicide. From himself." He pulled out his phone, showing me photos, Ethan entering Cal's apartment, their intimate dinner at the cafe. A kiss in a darkened parking lot. The board wouldn't understand. Neither would his clients. "Blackmail doesn't become you, Mr. Bennett. Please call me Cal. We're practically family now." He glanced toward the kitchen. "Isn't that right, Lila?" She emerged, pale but composed. "Get out of this house." "Careful," Cal said softly. "Ethan made his choice months ago. Don't force him to choose again." The front door opened. Ethan stood there looking wrecked. "Cal, stop." "Perfect timing," Cal smiled. "I was just showing your mother and wife some photographs. Memories we've made." Ethan moved between Cal and Lila, It's over. I told you yesterday. Nothing's over until I say it is. Cal's facade cracked, revealing something desperate underneath. You can't just. Get out. I cut in, stepping closer. Before I show the police those threatening messages you've been sending my son. Cal's face darkened. You have no idea what you're doing. No, I said, thinking of Finn's drawings, of Lila's quiet pain, of my son's haunted eyes. But I know what you've done. The Bluebird Cafe looked different in the rain. I sat across from Cal Bennett the next morning, watching him stir his coffee with mechanical precision. After yesterday's confrontation, he'd texted me. There are things about Ethan you don't know. Things a mother should hear. Your son, Cal said quietly, was going to leave with me. We had it planned, a fresh start in Seattle. New jobs, new life. He pulled out an envelope. Plane tickets dated 3 months ago. My hands trembled as I opened it. 2 tickets to Seattle in Ethan and Cal's names. He never used them. Finn got sick that weekend. Pneumonia. Cal's voice cracked. Ethan called to say he couldn't leave his son. Couldn't leave Lila. But he promised we'd figure something out. Why are you showing me this? Because you think I'm the villain. He reached for his phone, pulled up a video. Ethan's voice filled the space between us. I love you, Cal. Give me time to figure this out. I'll make it right. The timestamp was from yesterday morning. He's still lying, Cal said. To you, to Lila, to me. He wants everything, his perfect family, his secret life, his clean conscience. My coffee grew cold as Cal shared more evidence of Ethan's double life. Hotel receipts, intimate messages, plans for a future together. Each revelation felt like another brick in a wall between me and the son I thought I knew. What do you want from me? I finally asked. Help me make him choose. Really choose. Cal's eyes softened. He listens to you. If you tell him to follow his heart, you want me to help destroy my grandson's family? I want you to help your son stop living a lie. My phone buzzed, a text from Lila. Finn's asking for his daddy. Ethan won't answer his phone. Please help. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. You're right about one thing, Mr. Bennett. My son is lying. But not just to you. Where are you going? To make sure he faces every single person he's betrayed. Including you. Cal's laugh was bitter. He'll just tell more lies. No, I said. Because this time I have proof. I gathered them all in my living room. Ethan, Lila, and Cal. The unused plane tickets lay on the coffee table between us like a loaded gun. Finn was upstairs, supposedly napping, but I could hear his quiet footsteps above us, pacing like his father did when nervous. Everyone here knows a different version of the truth, I said. Let's fix that. Ethan sat rigid on the couch, not looking at anyone. Lila perched on the armchair, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles were white. Cal leaned against the wall, trying to appear casual but watching Ethan like a hawk. Mom, please, Ethan started. No more lies. I picked up the tickets. You were leaving. 3 months ago. Lila's sharp intake of breath cut through the room. When Finn was sick, I couldn't. Ethan's voice cracked. He needed me. He still needs you, Cal said softly. But you keep choosing temporary solutions. Lying to everyone. Like you're innocent? Ethan snapped. The threats, the photos. Stop. I laid out the evidence on the table, the messages, the photos, the hotel receipts. Every lie, every moment of betrayal, it's all here. Footsteps on the stairs. We all froze as Finn appeared in the doorway, clutching his latest drawing. Without a word, he walked to the coffee table and placed it among the evidence. The picture showed his family split in two, with a dark figure between them. But this time, he'd drawn himself standing alone, away from everyone. I don't want any more secrets, Finn said in his small, clear voice. Ethan broke. He reached for his son, but Finn stepped back, moving to stand beside Lila. Choose, I said to my son. Not between them. Between lying and truth. Between hiding and facing what you've done. I can't lose anyone else, Ethan whispered. You already are, Cal said, pushing off the wall. I'm done waiting. He headed for the door, pausing only to place a final photo on the table. Ethan and Cal happy unguarded. Fix this, I told my son, or lose everything. Finn's drawing fluttered in the draft from the closing door, landing face down among the evidence of his father's divided heart. 6 months later, I watched Finn chase butterflies in my backyard while Lila set up for his 6th birthday party. The separation had been hard, but watching my grandson laugh again made it worth every painful moment. Ethan arrived early, carrying a wrapped gift and wearing the hesitant expression he'd had since starting therapy. Need help with the decorations? Lila nodded, her movements still careful around him, but no longer brittle. They worked together quietly, stringing up balloons while I arranged cupcakes. Cal sent this, Ethan said suddenly, pulling an envelope from his pocket. Asked me to give it to you, Mom. Inside was a photograph I hadn't seen in 30 years. My late husband James at a construction site, his arm around a teenage boy I didn't recognize. On the back, in faded ink, James and nephew Callum, 1998. I didn't know, Ethan said, watching my face. Cal never mentioned. Your father never talked about his sister's family, I said softly. After she died, they all drifted apart. Is that why you pushed me to face the truth? Because you saw history repeating itself? Before I could answer, Finn came running over. Daddy, look. He held up his latest drawing. Our family around a birthday cake, all standing together, no shadows between them. It's perfect, buddy, Ethan said, his voice rough. The doorbell rang, the first party guests arriving. As Lila went to answer it, Ethan touched my arm. Cal's moving back to Seattle, he said. He's reconnecting with his family there. Said something about learning from the past. I looked at the old photograph again, at the way James smiled at his nephew, at all the years of disconnection that followed. Some patterns were doomed to repeat until we learned to break them. Finn's laughter floated across the yard as his friends arrived. Lila directed them toward the games she'd set up, while Ethan moved to help, keeping a respectful distance but staying involved. I tucked the photograph away, a reminder that healing doesn't mean forgetting, and sometimes the hardest revenge is choosing to let go of it entirely.